Hey guys, it's Mike with On Point Preparedness, and a couple of you had written me saying, hey, I hadn't seen video in the past couple weeks, and there is a good reason for it. Me and my wife are celebrating the birth of our second child, a new baby boy, and so I have been struggling to get sleep, let alone put out YouTube videos, so apologies for that. However, if you haven't jumped on over to the other side at onpointpreparedness.net, and you're an exclusive YouTuber, I do write articles pretty frequently. So do check those out because I've been putting out a lot this March. But to usher in videos again, I want to talk about this. It is called what I call a Scout Survival Kit. And I got to give credit where credit is due. This came from Mike McKilton at MCQ Bushcraft. You can check out his channel here. In one of my articles, I think he's probably one of the best bushcrafters on YouTube. And so if you want to learn how to make this, in addition to a whole wide range of bushcraft, I highly suggest you check him out. So what is this exactly, or what do I think its intended utility is? A Scout Survival Kit to me is something similar to an EDC kit, except you wouldn't have this on you as an EDC kit. I don't think you can go a lot of places in public with this size knife. But when you are backpacking, and what I do when I go backpacking with friends is you'll typically have your large bag on you. You'll get to camp, you'll deploy a lot of your gear, and then you'll scout out your surrounding perimeter for things like water, firewood, wild edibles, you name it. You're probably going to go out and try and find all that stuff. Now, you don't want to go out there without being prepared. Things can happen while you're away from base camp. And so this is what that void is. It's going to fill. It's going to give you the minimal essentials to do tasks or to save your butt if you get in a survival situation. So say you're scouting your perimeter and you fall down a ravine or something, this will at least have some of the tools to maybe help you survive until help arrives. So let's go ahead, check out the contents of this. Remember, go to MCQ Bushcraft to learn how to make this. Just a quick overview, because I'm not going to cover how to make it in this video. This is an EC6 knife, and it just has the standard sheath on it. And Mike will teach you how to do this paracord wrap. It goes all the way from top to bottom. And after you wrap the sheath in paracord, you use these things called alligator clips. And that just secures the pouch to the sheath. My pouch is different than Mike's. It's a little bit bigger. It's a Maxpedition Anemone. And my contents are also a little bit different from his, and that's what I'm going to be covering. So let's go ahead and open this up, see what's inside. Alright, so here is the kit all spaced out for you. And I have it segregated into categories. So again, this is extremely minimal. In order for this to work best, you're going to have a lot of outdoor survival skills, as I'll show you further on into explaining this kit. So again, here's the sheath. I originally had this Maxpedition Anemone pouch hooked to a cold steel sheath. As long as it has some type of sheath, doesn't have to be Kydex or anything, you can attach this via those alligator clips there. And it gives you a pretty decent amount of cordage, definitely above probably like 40 feet wrapped up in there. The knife, again, I moved away from the cold steel leather neck to the EC6. Just a quick tip, if you are debating about whether to get the EC6 or EC5, go with the EC6 for bushcraft. The EC5 is a burly knife that's meant for down pilot survival situations, and like any typical guy, I wanted to go for the 5 just because of how massive it was. But I'm really happy that I went with this. It's much more practical, just for general bushcraft work as well as self-defense. So, going into the categories, I have fire, I have water, I have shelter, and I have tools. I like to compartmentalize these things just so you don't get overwhelmed and you can make sure you don't forget anything. So for fire, I actually prefer to have commercial fire starters for this particular kit. In my bigger kit, I use more natural fire starters like birch bark or whatever I find along the trail, but the reason why I like these ones is because they come in their own little mylar pouches and they're waterproof. Because this kit is not waterproof. I could silicone spray it over, but I don't want to have tinder inside of my pouch and then get soaked through if it rains. So I like these for that reason. Wet fire starting tinder. Have a magnesium ferro rod as one means of starting fire. A Bic lighter. I do have some matches. I need to refill them because I used them last time, but I'll typically take this lighter out during the winter season because it's not very effective. The pressure goes down too much and it's just not worth it. So that's fire. Going down, I've got these portable Aqua tablets. Now, this in and of itself is not very effective because I don't have a container, which it starts to blend into my shelter. So I just have a very thin emergency mylar survival blanket, but this also can pair up as a container. So I can use this to gather water, or I can use it to hold water. And after it holds the water, I can just pop one of these tablets in here. Again, it's not ideal, but this is an extremely minimalist pack in terms of what you can fit in there. So these two can go together, or the shelter separately. I was thinking about putting some type of filter on this pack, but some of the smallest filters like the Sawyer Mini, which is only about that big, are still a little bit too big for this pouch unless I hooked it up to the exterior. But it's still an option, however you want to customize the pack if you choose to go this route. The tools, if you do decide to go away from base camp, and depending on how far you go away from it, you might want to use like dead reckoning skills with your compass in terms of shooting an azimuth, figuring out how far you're going, just so you can use that information to come back to camp. And so I have a military Kamenga lensatic compass along with the Ranger beads. Remember, you do need to go out and use this stuff. You need to see in terms of the terrain and your gait how many paces will equal however much length of distance you want to cover, 1/10 of a mile, half a mile, whatnot, and use these beads. I have the compass and Ranger beads. These tables, I'm not going to talk about them in this video, but you can actually gauge distance using a little bit of trigonometry and your compass. And these tables are little cheat sheets that I use, so very helpful. But again, I'm not going to cover it in this video. Pencil along with some paper that's not displayed here, paired up with the navigation tools. So that's my navigation or travel planning as a category. Some extra lead. And then this is a cool little thing. It doesn't necessarily need to be in this kit, but I like having it around. It is a Smith's knife sharpener. This is not going to get a razor sharp edge on your knife, but it will clean it up pretty nice. Even if you have a serrated edge, it has a tool for that as well. And it's super cheap. I think this is under 10 bucks. So I just like to keep this in there. In case of emergency, I have a signal mirror. And I have this on the outside of my pack. I like to go hands-free, so I have a Petzl LED lamp. And so this is pretty much everything that I have in this kit. Again, I like to split it up in terms of bulk categories. And this is what would do just fine for me scouting away from base camp and keep me alive if I ever got into a bad situation. One other thing I want to mention about this kit, depending on how far you're going away from base camp, everything put into this kit may only be one part of your whole scout kit. So if I move this away, one of the things I like to do with any of my kits, whether it be your bug out bag or any other type of bag, is to be modular. So I I have a couple different belts, just utility belts. This one's surplus, but I may put this little scout kit on this belt. In this pouch, I have a military surplus stainless steel canteen, which I can use to carry water as well as boil water. So in addition to the portable Aqua tablets that I can put in here, I can also boil the water. So you can have that on your belt, and then have a medical kit. And I'll put the link in the YouTube description below on everything that I have in this kit. But I like using belts and the mole webbing to stay as modular as you can, depending on the nature of where you're going, how far you're going. You can add or subtract to the belt. But really, just wanted to share this with you. Hopefully it'll give you some good ideas on how to make these nice little scout kits. I think they're really convenient. Always is on your side, so you don't have to be running around trying to find gear. And again, props to Mike McNilton at MCQ Bushcraft for giving me the idea. So have fun, stay safe, see you next time.